The intended use of this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guests independently, and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Updog Challenge Incorporated, its sponsors, or any other partnered organizations. Updog Challenge Incorporated does not guarantee the accuracy or reliability of any opinions expressed. In no way should the information provided during the Sweet Spot, an Updog podcast be considered veterinary, medical, legal, or professional advice. At all times, the advice of your personal professional should supersede any information provided, derived, or inferred from listening to this podcast.
Ready, set, go.
Welcome to the Sweet Spot, an Updog podcast. I'm Andrea.
And I am Jack, and we do not have a guest today. However, we've got a great topic for you. Dre, what's our topic today?
Our guest list topic is actually one of the questions that we got recently on our Updog discussion page, but we get quite often. And it's how do we get our dogs to catch more? Or how do we get them to not run really fast, spin around at the bottom of the disc and drop it, or pre-jump? Basically, is the question that we get a lot. How do we get our dogs to catch more accurately? And for me, that opens up a whole can of worms of things to share and ideas and concepts and stuff. And I know it did for Jack also when we brought up this topic the other day on a different podcast. And so we thought that it would be a great topic to discuss with everybody today, and what we call that is tracking and collection. So the topic that we're going to be talking about today is tracking and collection.
So this is kind of like one of our training episodes that we like to do. We'll give you some ideas of what's worked for us as we go, and we'll just kind of talk about some generalities as well with how to get our dogs to catch more. So I think when I think about our dogs catching more too, sometimes I think about, you and I judge a lot. We watch hundreds of freestyle routines. We see thousands of Updog games throughout rounds throughout the years, and you start to know when discs are going to be caught and when they're not going to be caught just by
Watching it
seeing
go.
what's happening out there on the field as an outsider, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting too, is we've got this perspective of just literally observing thousands of throws to
Yeah.
a dog and predicting in our own heads based on what we're seeing, that's going to be a catch. That's
Yeah.
not going to be a catch.
And I think part of it is our players also see some dogs out there that catch everything. And so they just think that either they just don't have that type of dog, which is true. I have never had one of those dogs that catches everything. Never. Of all my dogs, none of them catch everything. I don't have a magnet mouth dog. So I never had that experience if you could just
I mean, Capiche is pretty close.
She for toss and fetch, she's really good inside of a pattern, and outside of a pattern, she's really fast. So she has a lot of these problems that
Gotcha.
we're gonna perfect segue, Jack, into what we're gonna be talking about, because I really have to focus a lot on tracking and collection with her because she's fast and it's really easy for her to overrun when the right time is that she's supposed to be jumping to catch the disc. And so there's a bunch of different techniques that I use with her also that kind of help hide that it would be hard for her. She's a perfect example actually because she's not a naturally leaping dog.
So
So she,
let's,
yeah, so do you want to get into that?
I was just going to say, let's break this down a little bit for our listeners then. So we've mentioned tracking and collecting a couple times already, but what do we mean when we say tracking? What is that?
So if I was to break it down as simply as possible, I would say it's how the dog follows the disc when it's in flight. So maybe it's running, maybe it's watching. It depends on the different scenario of what type of freestyle or game or throw that we're doing. But for me, tracking would be the dog observing the disc in flight and how they follow it.
Okay.
What do
So
you think?
then, collection, how would you kind of I guess, define collection?
Yeah, so for collection for me, yeah, we're good at disclaimers. Collection for me as a disclaimer is just my
Well,
opinion. Well,
yeah,
it's
there
what I
there
observe,
is
right?
I think there definitely are different ideas on
Perspectives, yeah.
what creates collection and what is collection. But go ahead. Sorry, Jerry.
So for me, it's how the dog loads their body to make a catch. Um, And some dogs naturally can do that from like any speed or position. And some dogs absolutely cannot. And they have to be like limited on the best way I put this is like if you had a toddler in your living room, you wouldn't give them full access to like everything in the house because they can hurt themselves, right? So you put little plastic plugs in your outlets and you don't hand them metal objects to stick into things like that. And you don't have knives laying around. So like you're limiting the options that the toddler gets to experience. And what that does is limits the options that the of behaviors that the toddler can offer. Does that make sense?
Sure. Now, how is this relating to,
Back into dogs. So
yeah.
now if we go back into dogs, we want to limit the options of what our dogs can do.
So
So
I
same
don't
thing
give
with
them
toddlers.
knives.
Well, I mean, like,
Don't let them
how
stick their
much you let
tongue into
them run.
outlets.
Yes. How much you let them run, how fast you let them run, how you're allowing them to collect with the space that you're putting and the speed of the disc and the placement of the disc. All of that stuff limits their options. So, like, if you throw short, your dog doesn't have the option to run to 40 yards as fast as they can, right? So, when we're teaching tracking and collection, you usually don't start with the dog like running. You start with them not moving quickly. They're barely moving, maybe just a stride or two, and that take kind of takes that the speed part out of the equation at first for the dog to learn how to collect. So to answer your question, collection is how the dog, for me, it's how the dog loads their body in order to make a catch. So in if for proper collection, in my opinion, the dog should rock their weight back onto their back legs and push and explode off of their back legs. If a dog is running, they're pulling with their front and they are not collected. So the jump is going to be very different if they're running versus if they're rocked back and collected.
Yeah. So like you said, if the dog's running full out, they literally can't do that. They can't rock
Right.
back because they have to kind of take a little stutter step. They have to slow down just a bit in
Mhm.
order to get that rock and go back on their
Yeah.
hinds.
And you can capture and train those behaviors. So you could just capture it by like what one of the things that I encourage is to mark the collection, not the catch. So if the so and a mark would be like yes or good job or woohoo or yeah, that was awesome, right? To let the dog know that like when they're actually doing the collecting part, that's the part that you're celebrating. And if they don't catch it, okay. Like that's not even what you're working in that moment. I mean, ultimately that's the goal in the end, right? But there's a whole lot of intermediate goals along the way that get in the way of the main goal if the dog isn't collected properly. So when we're working tracking collection, I only mark collection. I don't mark whether they catch the disc or not.
So I want to delve into that if I could, just even
Yeah.
a little bit more granular. So like we talk about uh, marking the collection.
Mhm.
And I'm going to make a general statement and then maybe we can connect it to the collection part. So, like, I think that most people who have trained anything with their dogs understand the idea of raising and lowering the criteria, right?
Yeah.
Helping our dogs bridge the gap from where they're at to where we want them to be, whatever that trick is, right? Whatever this new trick is. Um, if my dog's not listening to me, they're probably not going to be able to sit, right? If I ask for a sit and my dog is just running around not listening to me, so the first thing I might need to do is reward the dog for like looking at
Yeah.
me and giving me some attention, right? So that's
Yeah.
my increments leading up to the
Yeah.
trick, which is the sit. So like when you say marking the collection, I'm just wondering like
What does that
are
look
there
like in
things
real life?
along the
Yeah.
way that I should mark to help my dog understand, okay, this is how I collect. This is what my handler's asking me to do, or this is what I'm getting, positive reinforcement for.
Yeah. So I would say that if somebody's asking how to get their dog to catch better, that they're either playing toss and fetch league, up dog games, or skyhounds games. I'm assuming they're in their yard throwing some pattern of disc to their dogs, right? And so I'm under the assumption that the basic pattern, whatever that is, whether that's a round out throw or whether that's just go and throw, is assumed, right? Like that part is already happening. The dog is already going out because the handler said to go out, and then the handler throws the disc at some point. It's what happens after that that the tracking collection part. So when a dog, so I want to make sure I'm answering your actual question. If we were going to break it down into smaller pieces, the part that we would need, that I'm assuming is the whole part that gets the dog running. Now, if we want to work on tracking and collection, because our dog zooms past the disc or doesn't even look when you throw, they just like zoom. The first thing we want to do is get them in a smaller, more controllable package, so closer to you. And we don't want them running. So I would throw like a high hyzer disc, and hyzer is when the wing of the disc is down so that it falls at that sharper angle. And the high disc will deter the dog from jumping right away because they don't expect it to be high as soon as they start running, right? So they're going to stop and turn towards the disc. And if they stop and turn towards the disc, they're no longer running. So if they're no longer running, they're automatically collected.
So right there, stopping and turning towards the disc might be the first thing that I start marking my dog for. Is
Yeah,
that
that would be the first step of collection is any turn away from a run. So and Jack, you allude to this when I did the conference with you, throwing off the dog's line is the same concept as this, except for throwing off the dog's line is a little bit tricky in toss and fetch because we have a very specific line we have to hold. So we don't have as much play with where exactly we throw things. So this concept is to keep the dog on the line they're on so that for toss and fetch, you could still throw inbounds and help your dog collect. Because a lot of the methods that we use in order to get the dog to collect require throwing kind of to the space beside the dog one way or the other. And if the dog has to run right down the middle of the field and catch right in the middle of a bonus field, in the bonus zone, like where do you throw it? Like you need it to not be around your dog. Your dog you need it to be in the middle of the field. So the hardest part, I think, of teaching tracking collection for something like toss and fetch, which is, I think, where most people are going to have this issue, is their long freestyle throws and their toss and fetch throws. When the dog gets up to like full speed, that's when they're going to have most of the tracking and collection problems. So from there, basically what we're looking to do is create space between the dog and the disc. So I want to like soak that in, space between the dog and the disc. Because if you're running down the line, let's say you're in toss and fetch and you're running right down the middle of the field, and somebody throws a disc directly over your head, it's really hard to catch because you're running and you're trying not to trip over your own feet. And now you have to look over your head at this thing that's flying, but it's not time to catch it yet. You still got to run for 20 more yards looking at this thing over top of your head and trying not to trip. Like us as humans, we may not be as coordinated as dogs,
yeah.
right? You can see the metaphor there that it's really hard to track something that's directly over top of your head.
Well, and we're bringing something up actually that we talked about at the last What Up episode too. This idea of, do I care if my dog checks in and
Hmm.
connects with me on like a longer toss? And we started off here talking about collecting, but in order to collect, the dog has to be tracking because I need to know when to collect, right? The
Yeah.
disc is my target. If I don't have a target in the air because I haven't found it yet, then I can't collect. So the tracking is part of this equation. And especially like you're saying in distance, in throw and go, oftentimes the dog is 20,
30
25
yards
yards
away.
out
Yeah.
before they ever see the disc appear. So the
Mhm.
target is is um
A
is
surprise.
that it's a surprise, right? The target
Yeah.
is the dog might be predicting, right, based on a pattern. Like I think that the disc is going to appear out of
Around here.
out of the air at about 30 yards out, and it should be to my right
Yep.
because maybe that's what you typically throw. But maybe it's an off throw, maybe the throw's faster or
Faster or
slower.
slower, or the ground is wet, or the dog is a little bit tired because it's like their third or fourth throw, and they're running a little bit slower, and you threw it a little bit faster. There's so many variables, so many variables. So if we the part that you just alluded to, that this we talked about it being a surprise. So I love capturing in dog training. I'm kind of a lazy dog trainer. I like to see what my dogs offer, and then if it's useful, I capture it, right? And so what I noticed is if I throw the disc past the dog at 20, 25 yards, it's an interruption to whatever they're doing. It like surprises them. So if that's happening, right, and it solves a problem, basically. So if my dog is running down the field and they're running to that 40-yard zone, right? And they're doing their happy pattern. Here's an Aussie, just happy to be running, knows he gets to jump soon. Very happy little Aussie running down the field to 30 or 40. We're getting to 20 yards. All of a sudden, they're in their happy little thing, knowing that they're get to jump soon. You can see the bubbles going on in their head. You know exactly what they're thinking. Then this disc goes shoo. And so whatever they were thinking or doing is now interrupted. Now they're like, oh, it's here. So it becomes instead of it being the dog starts running at around 10 yards and then runs for 30 yards to the 40, it becomes the dog runs out to about 20, 25, happily, joyfully expecting this process to happen. And then the process happens. And so the way the dog runs is different. The way they run out is like happily, joyfully running out at a certain pace. And maybe for some dogs that's bullet, and maybe for some dogs that's chill. Like it's however their experience of running out is. But the next thing that the dog does is when they see that interruption, that's when they start tracking. So now we don't need to worry about them tracking for 40 yards and holding their attention for 40 yards. They only have to hold it for like 15 yards, 15, 20 yards. And so they end up chipping the entire way. So they might have a stride or two to kind of collect after the running part. So the first 25 yards or so before you throw it. Then you throw it, then it's an interruption. You might get a sprint or two after that, but after that, it's all collection. So the dog chip, 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 kind of chip strides all the way down until it's time to catch. The tricky part is getting them to stay on the line they're on and not just go right behind the disc. So the later throw helps with that too. They don't have as much time to get behind the disc.
See, I think I have an opposing view, I
I
think.
love it. I'm so excited to hear what you think. I'm glad that you have viewpoints on this.
Well, I just think that I have viewpoints on everything, Dre. Sometimes I just stay quiet.
Yeah. You're wiser than me, Jack.
Um, I think that and maybe we're not opposing. I don't know. So if the longer that the dog has to make a play for the disc, I think the better.
Mm.
So in other words, like if my
Needs to
dog's
get out
out at the
early, I'm
25
sure.
yard line and the disc passes them at the 25 yard line and goes to the 40. So we're only talking 15 yards, right?
Yeah,
I'm just like you said, I'm happy little Aussie. I'm picturing
yeah,
Wham because that's totally her. Woo, look, I'm just running. It's fun. All of a
yeah.
sudden the disc appears and now I have 15 yards, which is like 2 seconds
Stride, stride,
to
collect, collect, jump.
make a move on the disc and to make that catch.
Yeah,
If my throw is good, she'll do it probably. If my
yeah,
throw's a little bit off and it's not exactly where Wham thought, Wham's going to have to make a bigger adjustment.
yeah.
And if all I've given her is 15 yards to make that adjustment, I don't know. Well, I do know because it's Wham. Wham's not going to be able to make that adjustment and make that catch in that couple seconds.
She needs a
But
second try time.
and this could just totally be a Wham thing because it definitely is not a Ferris thing. But like if I swing Wham around and she likes to flank a little bit out of the corner of my eye, we connect and she looks at me and I look at her and it's just at like about the 8 yard line or something like that. And I give her a mark. I'm like, yes, she seems to
Yeah.
run out with a little bit more purpose
Yep.
rather than just woo, like and so I'll throw it and yeah, maybe I lost a half second on that look, but I'll take that all day long for a catch.
So essentially, she's tracking from 8 yards-ish.
Right, because she's looking at the disc in my hand, which is also, I know we've talked about like blind throws and non-blind throws, where like, if I'm a right-handed thrower and I throw my dog around, if I swing my dog to the left and I turn to throw, like my right shoulder, my dog just sees my back because they're
Right,
over here.
right,
But if I'm a right-handed thrower and I swing my dog around my right side, which most right-hand throwers do,
right,
my dog's over here on the left. My right shoulder's pointed downfield. My dog, if they choose to, right? If I've connected with my dog early, then my dog can see that throw, that it can see the disc as it leaves my hand. all the way down the field the entire time.
Okay, so the question is, does
Yeah.
Wham stay on her side of the field or does she run in a straight line behind the disc?
Stay,
So
what do you mean by her
so
side of the
here you go.
field?
You're sending her around, right? You send her out and it's 8 yards and you're getting ready to throw. So she's here, you throw. Boom. Does she get in a straight line behind that disc as it's flying out, or does she stay on her flank? Because
It
that's the issue.
it
If she stays on her
depends.
flank, then that's perfect. But if
Yeah,
she
I
goes
was
in a
just gonna
straight
say it
line,
depends on the speed of the disc. Like if it's a nice floaty to 40 yards, which it
yeah,
should be if I throw it right, then she'll stay and flank it and intercept it. If
it's
it's got a
fast,
little heat on it,
she'll get
then
behind it.
she'll pick up the pace and all of a sudden it's a pursuit straight line.
Yep. And then you see more of that. She'll catch it or she won't based on the. Okay. So this is another little tidbit that I've kind of, whatever anecdotal evidence I've received just by observing a lot of dogs, right?
Yeah.
I've noticed that the problem with straight line catching is that the dog can only catch between stride. Okay, so let's think about that. Dog runs, collects, runs, collects, runs, collects. As their body's opening and closing, as they're running, they're leaning forward. If this disc is low and out in front of them and they have to catch it, the only time they can actually collect their body, like push, is when they're pushing in between strides. Otherwise, they're like this, right? They're just extended out with their with their there's nothing touching the ground. They're just woo, they're Supermaning. So the problem that I see a lot with dogs that get in a straight line or like low fast throws, that type of stuff, or handlers that throw low and in front of the dog, is that the time to catch is sometimes in between the wrong part of the stride. And so you have a certain percentage of drops that happen just because the dog can't collect in the middle of a run stride. So like they might get lucky, and you've seen it a million times, dogs reaching all the way out at extension and grabbing it at the last second and landing, or as a dog is running, the disc just like kind of falls in their mouth. That's because the disc is like low and out in front of them. But if it was actually like up and fading at all, the dog wouldn't be able to slow down and collect that. So the only way that dog can catch is if it's low and fast and in front.
Yeah.
And if you look at the strides, they can only catch in between stride. And so you'll have a certain amount of like either the dog looking like they're fumbling, which is going to hurt their athleticism score, which we're going to get into a little bit of a judging conversation here. But that would hurt the dog score. So if I'm a coach and I'm
In
working with,
freestyle, not greedy.
yeah, and free, I said greedy.
No, I'm just saying. Like that would be a freestyle thing, not a games thing.
Yeah. So if I was a judge looking at a freestyle team playing, I need to look at all the details of how the dog collects and how they catch discs and how they hold discs. Are they chomping? Are they bringing it back? Are they dropping at a distance? All that stuff, right? So how they collect and run is one of those things. And if you want to make small improvements on your score as a handler, team, or dog, these are the little things that take you from a 7 to an 8. Or an
Well,
eight to a nine, whether the dog can collect properly. If a dog is running and they can chip in collection and give you a pop, and we've all seen dogs that do that, and we're like, how did that dog just do that? They're showcasing that the dog can do that, right? If your dog can't do that, which most of our dogs can't do that, we need to present our disc differently so the dog can still showcase the a type of athleticism they have, like kind of find your points, right? Don't be throwing those low, fast discs to a dog that doesn't jump well. It's not going to showcase your dog as well. If you force them to collect with your placement of the disc and showing them how to hold their flank line when they throw out instead of getting in the single line behind the disc, they're going to have a higher athleticism score and they're going to catch more. They're going to have a higher catch percentage.
well, and if you think about it too, the game of disc is is very unique from an athlete's point of view. Like if you think about other sports, just like, all right, baseball, football, right? Those items, the baseball and the football,
Yeah.
if the baseball's hit and I'm in pursuit mode, right? I'm the outfielder and it's hit over my head, right? And I see it up in the sky and I'm chasing it down. That
Yeah.
baseball, for the most part, it's going to have slight variations, but for the most part, it is going to stay on its trajectory
Yep.
and
Fly
it is
straight.
going to have the consistency of speed and consistency of trajectory.
Yep.
Football, the quarterback makes a throw and the person's sprinting towards the end zone and they're looking up, right? That football is going to stay that same speed
Yep.
and trajectory. What
Yep.
happens in disc, we know what happens in disc. The disc takes off really fast and sort of starts slowing down and getting floaty at the end of its flight. So you think about the athlete down on the ground, our dog, and if you really think about all of the calculations it's having to go through the dog's head, it's amazing that they
Yep.
make any catches
Yep.
because they're running super fast because
Yeah.
they're trying to catch up with this thing. And then all of a sudden, in the last 10 yards of the disc's flight, all of a sudden it loses all of its gas and kind of floats in the air.
All's
And
off in some random direction.
right, and starts tailing off to the left, and you see the dog whoosh, go underneath the disc. Well, it's no wonder, right? And that is in definitely in pursuit mode.
Mhm.
If that same thing's happening to the disc, it takes off super fast, it slows down a little bit, and my dog is catching it slightly to from the left or the right and making a move on the disc from the outside regions,
Mhm.
which I understand from like if we're talking about far out or throw and go, it's more difficult to make a throw where your dog's coming in from the outside, but those are going to be easier catches for the dog because they can make more adjustments coming in from the outside versus I'm just hauling butt behind this thing.
Right over my head. Yeah.
All of a sudden it changes speed, it changes trajectory, and like you said, tails off or whatever, and
Yeah.
the dog has to make these last second adjustments.
Yeah.
So,
If you're beside it, you could just see the adjustments a lot easier.
yeah,
Side it versus like being like this when you're in a single line and the disc falls off. There's the change happens so fast that the dog can't make an adjustment or can't make the correct adjustment in time. And that's what we would call a pre-jump. It's not actually a pre-jump, it's a late jump. So that when that happens and it causes the dog to jump, like they get under a disc and then you see them bounce like that, that's actually a late jump. They've already missed it. They should have jumped earlier and they're trying to just save it. So an actual
they're
pre-jump,
trying to act like they're
yeah,
doing something so they don't get yelled at by me when they come back.
yeah, there.
They're like, oh, I really tried,
I
Jack.
think Ferris is a pre-jumper though, right? Ferris jumps like 10 yards early.
So, yeah, yeah, and he
That's what a
jumps,
pre-jump is when
jumps
they
and
see that
and
you jump really
carries.
early.
He's
Yeah,
pre-jumping and catching. Um,
yeah. What?
but what he doesn't do is so like in throw and go, he can now get like he used to be able to get 5 long throws, and it's
Mhm.
very sad because he can no
That was
longer
before, yeah.
get that. Sometimes, if I'm lucky, if everything's perfect, I can get 4 long throws and a shorty. But
Yeah.
what happens on the shorty, and I got to be really careful because it's a risk. So he'll get the 3 long ones, and his pattern is haul butt to the 40, get the
Yeah.
catch, come back as fast as I can, haul butt, catch, haul butt, right? So on the fourth one, if I'm going to throw a shorty, I say shorty,
Yeah. And he needs to
and
not haul butt.
and he needs to not haul butt, but he's so used to he's got 3 reps of going super fast. If I put that disc directly in his line and
Mhm.
float it out to the 20-yard line because I want it just over that 20-yard line, he will pre-jump that, miss it, fumble the pickup,
And
and
then
now
you won't have any more time.
instead of 5 catches, I will have only 3 because
Three.
I'll run out of time. But if on that shorty, here's his line and I throw it over here,
Mhm.
he'll catch it because he'll go, oh, there it is, and he'll slow down. He will collect. He will rock
Turn
back,
towards it and
turn
go.
towards
Yeah.
it, make the move, get the catch, and also he's already now turned. He's going to make a faster return back to me. So
Yeah.
like it's just really interesting to see
The different types of dogs.
different types of dogs and the impacts of your different throws, like being like playing around with it and saying, okay, if I want to work a short toss in the middle of my throw and go, like after my dog has just run 3 times really fast and I'm going to do something, what do I need to do to make that happen? And like
Yep.
part of it is our throw, part of it is making, and this was part of our conversation from the What Up episode, is having some sort of a verbal cue that
Yep.
this one's not going to be a long one. This one's going to be a shorty. So
Yep.
don't run 50 yards,
You
you
call
know.
yours shorty if you don't already.
I do.
Okay, good. Just you just say it so well. Shorty.
Actually, I just say short. I don't say
I
shorty.
say short too. That's what I say too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did want to talk about quickly, I just alluded to the dog's different bodies and stuff. Um, there's a certain amount of this that can be managed in training. A lot of it can be managed in training, teaching the dog to collect over a bar, working on jump drills, cavalettes, using the pressure of the disc to get the dog to stay on their line and collect over. Like there's a lot of things that we can do to improve our jumping for our dogs. And they have bodies just like we have bodies, and our bodies are more likely to do something than other things, and the same thing for our dogs too. So we want to keep in mind that if our dog has like a really long back, it might not be a big leaping or jumping dog. And if a dog has a more compact body, then maybe it would. You want to look at the angles of the dog's body too, and you want some balance between the front and the back. And you can always have somebody that's has a lot of understanding about dog structure and stuff, kind of look at your dog also and assess their athleticism or what their build is. But the different type of structure their body has will also determine how they jump. So there's that as a separate element. Some of us get lucky and our dogs just come out of the womb jumping, and other ones you have to put some work in to get them to collect and jump. And then some dogs just won't. Like Freebird will not be a big leaping dog.
Yeah. I mean,
And Remix
we've
won't
already
either.
talked about this. Like, yeah, remix, same thing. So I want to go back for a second.
Yeah.
So I think you just hit on another place where this comes in. We've been talking a lot about like long throws and throw and go or far out and pursuit mode and stuff. But another place where I sometimes see a lack of collection and dogs coming in hot is on overs.
I literally had that picture in my head right as you were saying it. Yep.
So like, and you mentioned doing some jump work with the bar and stuff. Like, can you just give a quick tip? Like, what does that look like? How do I help my dog? They're coming in on an over, and I throw the disc, and they're just coming in so hot. Sometimes they slam into it, miss it, whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
and you can tell when a dog collects versus not collects on an over too.
Yep. Yeah, they're striding and they're dragging their butt. If they're jumping like this, they're not collected. And if they're jumping like that, they usually are collected. So you can just look at how straight the top of their back is. This one is a whole nother can of worms about overs. We can
All right, should we
I would
just?
say 30, no, the 30-second elevator speech about
All right.
overs, I would say is the way that your dog approaches the over is going to change everything. So if we just assume that we have the pushy type of dog, and not any of the other dogs that approach at a normal speed or take normal cues. The biggest thing the most valuable thing I've trained in regards to overs that help to control how they collect and jump is when the dog is supposed to jump. So I show a vertical pose, and when I'm ready for my dog to actually do the jump, I trigger the disc and push the disc towards them. So my dogs are taught to jump on the trigger of the disc. So I control when their over happens, if that makes
So the
sense.
trigger of the disc being like
I don't have a disc
this
here yet.
versus like this,
Yep. And as soon as it goes flat and I throw it, that's when they're supposed to make their jump.
like my
So
disc.
I do like your CD. I didn't know we still had those things. If
I
anybody
had
was gonna have one though, it's you. You still have the blank burn ones that you can make CDs?
The only reason I have this is because Kat's mom was cleaning out her office and she
Uh-huh.
had a stack of them and she's like, "What should I
That
do with these?" Because
CDR. Those are the recordable
yeah,
ones.
her dad had burned a whole bunch of stuff on there, and so I'm like, "Give them to me, I'll destroy them for you." And
Yeah.
they're sitting on the desk, so now they are my frisbees
Now that you
to
yeah.
show people.
Yeah. Well, yes. So basically, I show vertical, showing the dog like where I'm going to throw, that's how Yachi's method works. And then when I'm ready for the dog to actually jump, I'll do the trigger of the disc and the throw. So and that takes training, just like everything else. That takes practice when you're teaching your dog over that when they're supposed to go is the trigger of the disc and not before or not after. So that takes some separate training, but that training can also be an interruption to whatever they're running in. So the type of dogs I have are going to be the pushy kind. That's just the type of dogs I like. I like the pushy, blasty through kind. So a lot of the methods that I'm using are interrupters because they're going to choose to do the blasty, runny thing anytime that I give them that choice option. So I need to interrupt that with something that is more interesting. So a lot of times it's like I'll give them a body cue and move a certain way, and that'll interrupt them. Um, So for this over cue, I'll give them a pose that start because they're running towards me. That will give them something. And then when I move into another position, that becomes an interrupter too. So I'm looking for anything that'll interrupt their forward push momentum to get them to rock back, even if it's just a moment. And then a dog like Leap and Magic both have excellent chip to collect and leap. So they can do it from a run. And so I want to showcase that. So I'll have more of those types of moves with those two dogs where they're like running and then they chip and do a big leap. But a dog like Freebird or Capiche, you won't really see that. I won't showcase that because neither one of them leap well. They're both forward lunging fast dogs. So I have to put things on an arc for them or a setup move before to ask them to do that kind of stuff. Or if I'm doing an over with one of them, it's a forging over. And I just don't showcase it a lot. I showcase that they can, but they're just not going to have. I could fight it all day long, right? But like, why would I want to fight it and spend that much time showcasing something that the dog isn't great at? So I'll showcase that she can do it, and then I'll focus on what the dog's great at. And then for something like toss and fetch, I do a lot of that collection training on them having to stay on their flank line for the disc instead. The single line is what really kills it. Anytime a dog gets in a single line from the disc.
So, I just want to jump in freestyle wise on
Yeah.
something that you said there, because I think it's a super important concept that I don't know how many people connect with it. But what Dre was saying there on the over is, she talked about an interrupter. In order to have an interrupter on the over, I need to be connected with my dog because if
Yeah.
I'm not connected with my dog early, then I can't interrupt their hauling butt back towards me to do that over.
It'll be too late.
So my dog, right, my dog's 20 yards out. I need to be connected with my dog.
Yep.
Like, especially in freestyle, I see people who, after out throws and medium tosses and stuff, they don't connect with their dog again until their dog's like pretty much
It's like, whoa,
right back in their
you're
face.
here.
Right. And so I really think just as again, another general statement, it's super important as soon as possible. I know sometimes you're picking up discs, and so then that's why you're not connecting with your dog as you're trying to grab those discs. But when possible, pick your head back up, connect with your dog early so that you can have them come in at a reasonable speed, at an appropriate angle for whatever the next setup is for your trick. But yeah, I've got to connect with my dog early. I can't try to do that interrupter when the dog's 7 yards in front of me
At a
and
full run.
coming at me hard.
That ain't gonna work. No. And maybe, the thought that just occurred to me when you were saying that is the level of importance. I don't think that people have that as a primary importance.
What, connecting with my dog out from a distance?
I don't think that people if you want to improve in this area, think about it as a child running in a park.
Here we go
Your
again with
child,
this
well,
toddler.
but here's the deal. Here's the deal. People can easily connect emotions and rules and structures around human beings, and they can't around dogs. So imagine your child's running around a park and you're picking up their toys off the ground. Are you going to keep an eye on your kid while you're picking up those toys? Yes. Or some bear is going to come grab them out of the woods and take them into the woods.
Wow, what park are you at?
I live in the woods now. Yeah, so I mean the metaphor is a good one though, right? Like if you were concerned about the safety of your child as you would in public at any point, right? You would keep an eye on them while you're doing the thing that you're doing. And I think with dogs, when we're on the freestyle field, we're consumed in our brains with remembering our freestyle routine and we're not worried about where my dog is, what my dog's doing. We're not worried about the safety of our dog for sure. Unless you have a reactive dog, then you're definitely paying attention to where your dog is on the field.
I like the thing I like best about that is that you self-declared that the metaphor was a good one.
I thought it was.
Hey, you know what, people? I agree with me.
This is a great metaphor. Yeah. So I think that if we put more importance on paying attention to the dog as like this is going to be a key to your success, is like watching your dog more
Absolutely.
and being more
Yep.
connected with your dog as like that's more important than picking up your discs.
Yeah.
You can pick up one of those discs, look at your dog, do a really bad to the bone over, and then pick up more discs afterwards. But that bad to the bone over is not going to happen if you're not connected with your dog. It's just not.
Exactly. Yep.
Yep.
And well, also I was about ready to go down a rabbit hole with something else with freestyling, so I won't do that. All right. So
I think that was a good button up on the topic, though. I mean, I don't know that I have any more things that we
well,
can cover
let's
about.
just think here like okay, if we could give our listeners, if we could each give our listeners, excuse me, like one tip to help with tracking and collection, what would it be? So like we've mentioned a couple, but we mentioned them really quick. So Dre, like what's like one go-to exercise or thing that you do with your dogs to help them either track or collect or both?
I would throw hyzer throws to my dog. Um, hyzer
And you're
being the
talking like extreme,
um,
more extreme hyzer, not
yeah,
just your normal
yeah.
hyzer.
In I wouldn't limit it to just toss and fetch direction. So it would be a circular pattern so the dog can see discs going in different directions, and I would use multiple discs. So I just want to be clear, I'm not lining up a toss and fetch field with one disc and working this as a pattern because that creates a whole nother slew of issues. But I would work it in a circle where I would just like throw the disc to my dog in maybe a 10 to 15 yard radius. And if I'm left-handed, so if I was throwing my left hand backhand throw, I'd be throwing to the left hand side of my dog for each one of those, high and to the left. So the dog could learn that disc is coming back, they need to stay on their line. And then if I wanted to work reverse spin, I would work a bunch of reverse spin throws in a row. So right hand side, sidearm, overhand wrist flick, high, hyzer, and let them see it on that line and have them wait. And as the dog's waiting for the thing to come back, that's what I would mark. I would mark the waiting for collection. So that's what I would do. And then you build the distance out as the dog starts catching the 10-yard, 15-yard ones, and you can start throwing a little further.
I would say I could say the same exact thing that you just said and say Anheuser.
You could. What a good. I love that. That is the best answer ever, Jack, because it doesn't even occur to me. Every time you say it, it's a surprise. I
And
love
and really, really
how
guys,
Anheuser is. Tell him what
really
Anheuser.
guys, all both of us are doing there is what are we doing?
We're having the dog
I
pay
hope you
attention
guys
to the
like
book.
are saying in your head right now, we're getting the dog to think, right? We're
Yeah.
getting the dog to slow down and think
Look at
because
the
weird,
disc.
weird stuff, I was about to cuss, weird stuff is happening with this disc in the sky. It's
Yeah.
not just a pursuit mode, you know, wing, and the dog running right behind it. So
The CD is like, it's like our guest. The CD is our funny guest. He's just coming
there we
across the
go.
screen.
There we
We're
go.
gonna have little spinny CDs in the background for future episodes. That's great.
But but yeah, so like the same thing that Dre was saying with the Heiser, you can do with the Anheuser, and we're mixing it up on our dog. We're making our dog think. It reminds me of like how there's, the old saying of like my best catching dog was my first dog that
First
I ever
dog.
had because my throws were horrible. And my
Yep.
dog had to learn how to like, ooh, I got to turn my head. I got to get underneath this. I got to come at this one from the top, right? In order to just catch it because our throws weren't that great. So just pretend like
Now we
you
have
aren't good
spoiled
at throwing.
dogs. Spoiled dogs. You
Yeah.
just gotta throw it perfect all the time now.
Yep.
Jack, I was wondering if you would share some far out facts with us today.
Sure, of course. I have prepared some far out facts related to our topic of the day, which is collection.
Action.
Yeah. So, we're just going to change the word a little bit from collection to collections. A lot of times people like to collect things, Dre, and I found some interesting facts about
Uh,
collecting things. First of all, I like did a little Google search on like why do people collect things? Because like, different people collect different stuff, and like so there's different motivations, which I thought were interesting, that the internet had provided me. So, like, when you think about, like, why do people collect stuff? So, it says it's a mix of biological and psychological factors, including evolutionary drives, I guess, like, probably, like, collecting, I don't know, like
nostalgic things.
food. I
Yeah.
mean, like long time ago, like collections of like food or like,
Plates, spoons,
things that are important
servers.
to you. Um, so dopamine driven reward loops.
That
That's a
makes,
big one, I think.
yeah.
Um, because these can be tactile things we collect, or they could just be like virtual things we collect, like, thumbs up, likes. How many comments did that post get? How many achievements did I earn this weekend at Updog? Let me go check my team site to see the new graphics I've
Very
got.
creative. Very creative.
Yeah. Um, a desire for control. That one was interesting. I am going to get all of these things and keep them for myself. Social recognition, intellectual satisfaction, and nostalgia. Nostalgia is a big one, I think. A lot of times we end up collecting things that
From
we had when we were
childhood.
younger. Um, and collecting provides a sense of purpose, achievement, and connection to the past. It can become an unhealthy addiction if not managed in moderation. Cat's
Don't
probably
spend
sitting,
milk
Cat's probably
money
sitting
on it.
behind me going, yeah, uh-huh,
Yeah.
I know
All those
exactly what one
all
I
those
think.
discs you collected.
Exactly. All right, so Dre, I found some odd collections and different facts about collections. Do you want to hit one of them?
Yes, the world's largest collection is the Library of Congress. It has 173 million items. What's even in the Library of Congress? Is that where all the laws and stuff are?
Well, there's like tons of documents, tons of like,
All the bills
written
and
stuff. They collect a lot like art, a lot of like music, all of that kind of stuff is in the Library of Congress. I'm not sure if they have tactile things like that would be in the Smithsonian
I
or
don't
not.
know. Yeah, I don't know.
Um,
All right,
but
you're up.
anyways, so here's another one. Neil Scallon has been proclaimed by the Guinness Book of World Records as the biggest collector of Monopoly games. He has over 3,000 Monopoly games in his collection. Now, I don't even know where you would put that and
I want to
why
know if
you.
he's still married.
I'm sure there's a gal out there that
That
likes
really loves
that
Monopoly.
really just loves Monopoly games or another guy that really loves Monopoly games. I don't know. You're gonna find somebody. You always find somebody that has the same passion as you.
Usually. Okay, so you probably won't understand if we talk about duck lovers, but you will certainly understand if we talk about plastic duck collectors. This little bath toy became popular in the 1970s. They are real collector's items, and the proof is in the American Charlotte Lee, who owns more than 2,100 ducks. We're talking about rubber duckies, aren't we?
Yeah. I
Rubber
bet
duck
you they're all on the dashboard of her Jeep.
of her Jeep. They're glued there, all 2,100 of them. They look like those little smallpox, or like they look like one of those people that are covered with those warts. Just gonna be rubber duckies, 2,100 of them, all glued to her Jeep.
All right. Another crazy collection is a guy that spent 15 years collecting bowling balls so that he could build a bowling ball pyramid in his garden. The bowling ball pyramid now has 1,785 balls. There's a ball joke in there somewhere, but I'm just gonna leave it.
Just leave it right there. So we should put a little cricket noise at the end of that. Crickets, crickets. When a brand becomes a common name, it's easy to imagine that it generates enough enthusiasm for collections to be born about it. The largest collection of cans is held by Italian Davide Adriani. How's that?
That was great. I left this one for you since you got the Italian in you.
There's a joke in there too. His collection started when he was 5 years old. In March 2017, he had over 15,000 cans. He certainly has more than that today. We certainly hope he hasn't drunk all of that, though. 15,000 cans. I mean,
And they
I'm
are.
pretty sure I picked up that many cans when I was a kid. I just didn't keep them.
Did you collect them and then trade them in for money?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. When I was a
Crushing
little,
cans. Like, that's what we did on the weekends. You just crush cans.
there was a high school stadium up the road from our house that I could bike to.
Yeah.
So just like you said, Saturday morning I'd go
Yep.
up there because there'd be soda and beer cans all over the parking lot of the.
Friday night
And
football.
I'd
Yeah.
yep, I'd pick them all up and crush them and take them in and get like, a couple bucks.
$3.
Then I would take that to garage sales and I would buy Hot Wheels cars that I collected.
And it's all put up in a perfect little bow. Very
Um,
nice.
so Dre, what are some stuff that you collected? Anything that any collections that you have?
Frisbee dogs. Um, Let me
Did you
think.
ever collect things when you were little?
I had Garbage Pail Kids. Yeah, I don't, even now, like, I don't know that I don't even have like a bunch of collars for my dogs. Maybe it was RV life that really got me off collecting, but like, I don't have stuff. I have stickers to remember where I've been and stuff, but I just didn't have the space.
Well, maybe stickers is the collection. Lots of
Yeah.
people, obviously,
Oh,
lots of people at UpDiv have collections of stickers.
I collect these things too. I sticker bomb them.
You mean the drink bottles?
Yeah. So on my travels, like this one was from Alaska, all right? And this one is from Niagara Falls in New York. I don't have anything else from those trips, just these. So like,
That's a good collection to have because it's easy to place them somewhere and it's cheap,
yeah. Yeah.
you
And I
know.
can keep, like, I don't need to use all these. I can stack them on top of something eventually and have like, different water bottles from different times in my life with different adventures and stuff. So there you go. I collect water bottles
I think some people
and
are
Frisbee
more
dogs.
I think some people are more like prone to collecting than others too. I don't know why. That would be very interesting, like I don't know whether it be sociology or I don't know,
Psychology.
what would that be, Kat?
Why
Like
do people collect
why
things?
some people are more prone to collecting things than others? Like what would that be? A biological study or a sociological study? I don't know. Maybe it's both because maybe there's lots of factors
Maybe the
involved.
collectors were the gatherers as opposed to the
Ah,
hunters.
so Kat, is that anthropology
Yes.
speaking?
Yes.
So
Oh,
Kat's given us some anthropology behind us. She says that maybe the collectors were the hunter-gatherers. Is that right?
The gatherers.
We're the gatherers.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
I
So,
guess. Sure.
Kat, what did you collect when you were young?
Mm, I don't know. I I can't I can't think of anything that I collected. Um,
Pictures of George Michael?
well, yeah, I did have a wall full of you
I
know,
I had a wall full of Backstreet Boys.
yeah, I mean, it was more than George Michael. There was Duran, and I think
Yeah.
Bon Jovi made it up there once, and some stuff like that.
Michael
I mean,
Jackson.
I bought records like 45s, like, but I wouldn't say I collected them. I just had, 10 or 20, but
Yeah. I'm definitely the one that has a problem with collecting.
he definitely has a problem.
Like I'll just collect stuff and all of a sudden just be like, all right, now I need to get that one and now I need to get this one or whatever. And like it's just silly stuff. And then at a certain point I'm like, why do I have all these things?
All
And
this stuff.
then
Yeah.
just get rid of them. And then I go on to collect something else again.
Or
It's
in
a
the case of
clean
CD,
hobby.
he got rid of all of his CDs and then a couple years later decided to buy a whole bunch of them back.
Well, it was COVID. I mean, what else could I do?
I used to do CDs also. And essential oils. Remember that, cat?
Yeah, but that wasn't a collecting. Like I
I mean,
wasn't
we
like,
went pretty crazy back in the early 2000s with essential oils. We did. We were like, well, I'm almost out of lavender. We need like, we were putting orders in like every month.
yeah, but I mean, I use them, so I don't know that that's collecting. Like collecting
But
to me is
where's the
like getting
fine?
something and putting
You
it on the
guys,
shelf.
yeah, you guys were stockpiling
Yeah,
for,
stockpiling is a
for the
better word.
great essential oils
So that means all of our discs are
famine
just
or whatever that was going to
stockpiled.
happen.
All of our discs are stockpiled. They're not collected.
Right. Well, I mean, to me, if they're discs that you've put up on a wall and displayed,
That's
that's collecting. If you just have them to be used, that's a little
stockpiling.
different. Like
That's stockpiling.
that's stock.
That's being a prepper.
There you go.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
a
a
disc
prepper when it
prepper.
comes to disc. I need to have backups for my backups if I
All
run out.
right. Well,
All right,
I
well,
hope
I don't
that you
even know that
guys, what?
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
We're talking about collection.
Collection.
We hope that you guys enjoyed our fun facts. We didn't get too off the course there. And we're going to close this one up by saying that we hope that you enjoy playing Updog soon somewhere. We hope to see you on a field. And in the meantime,
Be kind to each other.
and be kind to your animals. We will see you next time on The Sweet Spot. Oh, and also comment in the comments, like, what did you collect? What are some weird collected items that you have? We would love to hear that.
We're gonna
Put them in
discover
the
some
comments
fun-
below.
Yeah.
I don't even know if the comments are below, but I'm just doing this because I see people do that on videos. All right, comments below. This one's going to be a shorty.